Late Night Health continues. I'm Mark Alyn. We are at epidemic proportions regarding addiction in this country, whether it's alcohol or drugs. We have an expert to talk to us today, the clinical director of Decision Point Center in Arizona. And we're going to be talking about addiction from a variety of standpoints. Particularly, one is what makes Decision Point different and unique compared to some of the ones that you see advertised on TV that include spas, yoga, and massage. Joining us in our conversation today, of course, will be the insane Daryl Wayne, and Dr-garyd-hees is on our line now from Arizona. Gary, welcome to Late Night Health. Are we at epidemic proportions?
Oh, I would certainly say so. From my seat, it surely looks like it, but also I recently saw figures out of either the National Institute on Drug Abuse or the National Institutes of Health that predicted that by 2020, more people would be treated for substance use disorders or addiction than for anything else.
Oh, my. You used an interesting term there, substance abuse disorder.
Right.
Versus addiction. Is there a difference?
Well, there certainly is. The new manual, if you will, that guides all of us when we write down diagnoses indicates and uses the term substance use disorder. What it tells us is that this occurs along a spectrum, that there can be mild, moderate, or severe substance use disorders. In the severe range, you're probably talking about what we always called addiction, something that is typified by withdrawal symptomology in the presence of not being able to get the substance, and pretty much a complete collapse of life. On the other end of the spectrum is a mild substance use disorder, and this really affects a lot of young adults. These are the people who you see formerly having very high grade point averages in school and suddenly falling into becoming completely blotto every weekend, and those grade point averages falling as well as their motivation and their ability to interact with other people socially.
Let's talk about addiction itself. We have two recovering alcoholics with us. Daryl, the insane Daryl Wayne, has talked about this with me over the last 3.5 years many times. You're now sober
30 years.
30 years. Gary, I think you told me 37?
No, I'm actually sober a little over 26.
26 years.
Youngster.
Right.
Youngster. He's just starting.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
just starting.
And I want you to know that I paid your partner to call me a youngster.
What I'm curious about, guys, is when you're in the throes of a heavy weekend, like you just said, can you, Daryl, you've told me you were functional.
I was pretty functional, but it was daily, obviously. In the last 6 months before I attained sobriety, I was drinking half a gallon of vodka a day and still functioning.
Oh, my. And what about you, Gary?
Oh, with me, it was about half of a half gallon, so about a quart of Maker's Mark.
Oh, my.
every day. And still going into work on time and such as that. But what falls apart are any kind of relationship.
Yeah, everything else.
Any kind of, it's one of those things, Mark, maybe the best way I can do it is those of us who didn't lose our jobs, we were like the house with the white picket fence. People came by and they said, oh, look at that. The fence is painted. The flowers are beautiful. But everything happening inside the house was really sick.
Huh. Interesting. Your wife stood with you? Your family stood with you or not?
Oh, absolutely. My wife and I, my My wife at that time and I got sober basically at the same time. Unfortunately, she passed in 2001 from a long-term illness. But yeah, the family basically stood together and went into recovery together.
Wow. That's unusual, isn't it?
Well, it is. The odds are against that, actually. And it's really too bad. Somebody told me a while back, Mark and Daryl, that if you get into recovery and you're with the person who you married, and you married them in the midst of a substance use disorder, and then you get into recovery, that you really don't know each other. And their phrase was a good watchword: don't divorce a stranger. Really get to know the other person on a personal basis outside of the influence of the substance use disorder before you decide that you don't want to be around them.
And Daryl, were you involved at the time?
I was married at the time, and quite the opposite effect took place with me. My first wife did not want to deal with a sober Daryl who was functional and making decisions and doing better in my life. She liked the part where she was making excuses for my behavior and where we were going and why we couldn't go to this. And why she'd make up these fantastic stories, and she just didn't want me taking responsibility for the relationship.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Well, that's got to be hard. All right, let's talk about what sets Decision Point apart from these places that we see advertising that, frankly, as a non-addict, I would like to check into for maybe 2 weeks, because I could use a massage and exercise every day.
I got you. And, here's the thing, Mark. I think that what we see with the young people nowadays is a lot more complicated than putting a plug in the jug. A lot of these young people, when we talk to them, certainly putting a plug in the jug would improve things. But at the same time, they have a syndrome of behaviors and deficits that most of us refer to with the term failure to launch. These are the young 20-something year-old people who are sitting in their parents' basement getting high and playing video games. These people, when you look at them, they really they know what they want to look like to other people. In other words, they know what role they play when they're around others. But the truth is, they don't know very much at all about who they are. Who we are is usually based on an internalized set of moral values. And if we haven't gone through that developmental process, then what we will do is put together a set of coping skills instead of really discovering who we are, and by being guided by that definition of who we are, going into life, becoming functional in life, and deciding what our purpose is in life.
Do other treatment programs delve that deep? I've interviewed a couple of them over the years, and it doesn't seem that they approach it like that. They just want to, as you said, plug the jug.
Well, certainly I don't know of a lot of treatment programs that want to do this. But this is my second career. I went back to my master's program in my mid-40s and purposely went into behavioral health. And from the very beginning, working with school children, working with the severely mentally ill, working with adolescents, and now working with young adults, have noticed the very same things. A lot of programs don't do that. They don't delve into what's below that, into what would scare the bejesus out of a young adult, not knowing who they are, not knowing really how to function in the world, feeling like they don't have a purpose. And then on top of that, Mark, you add today's job market. That's a very scary position for a young adult to be in.
But why is that different than somebody, say, 50 plus, who may not know their purpose either?
Well, it's not necessarily different from somebody 50 plus who wouldn't know their purpose. I had a very successful first career, Mark, in data processing, and I basically fell into it and stayed functional long enough to be able to do that career and do it well. Behavioral health was the career after being sober, after growing myself up some, that I chose to go into. So you can have 50-year-olds who are in that position, just like I was 38 when I was in that position. We simply choose to focus on the 18 to 34-year-old young adult segment of this population.
Our guest is Dr-garyd-hees. He is the clinical director for Decision Point Center. Do you have one or two locations, I believe, in Arizona?
Well, we have a location in Prescott, Arizona. That is our main location with the residential facilities surrounding it. And then we have an outpatient clinic down in Scottsdale where people can go as well. Either one can work. It's kind of like when Daryl and I were talking before we went on the air. When you're ready for this kind of thing and you realize that you need to do it, things will work out for you.
And if people want information, they can go to your website, which is? DecisionPointCenter.com. DecisionPointCenter.com. We're going to have a link to the website on Late Night Health. Just go to the guest tab, go to Gary under G, and you will see a pretty picture of Gary. And there'll be a bio on Gary and some information on Decision Point Center as well, and a link in case you need some information about the program for a young one in your family or somebody you might know. It would seem to me, Gary, that the holiday stress of having to be with family that you may not want to be with, we can pick our friends, we can pick certain parts of our anatomy, we cannot pick our family. And with that added stress, with not knowing where we are going in life, with not understanding what to do, that smoking or drinking for a weekend or even every day is something that a lot of young people in their 20s, as you mentioned, are doing on a daily basis. And so I'd like to discuss that in our remaining time when we come back. Again, our guest from Decision Point Center, Dr-garyd-hees. Beginning next week, here's something that Gerald doesn't even know. Robert Clancy will be joining us on a weekly basis, giving us a 1-minute piece of information and inspiration each week. Robert is the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Soul. He'll be joining us starting next week. All right, I'm Mark Alyn. Don't go away. More coming up. Visit us at latenighthealth.com, as well as like us at facebook.com/latenighthealth. More coming up.
If you're struggling to pay or haven't been making your student loan payments, listen carefully to this urgent alert. Have you been out of school for 10 or more years and you're still making your student loan payments? Are your student loans past due or even in default? Can't go back to school because of an old student loan problem? We can help you if you qualify. Your student loans can be taken out of default. We can stop the wage garnishments, stop the collection calls, and stop the seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and see if we can help you reduce your student loan payments. One quick 10-minute call could solve them right now. So call the Student Loan Helpline now.
800-419-2201. 800-419-2201. 800-419-2201. That's 800-419-2201.
This is a fee-based document preparation service to help you access free government programs. Call for complete details. Not available in all states.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-789-7213 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 800-789-7213 to take your call now. Call 800-789-7213. That's 800-789-7213. Again, 800-789-7213.